And hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Doug Miles interview. Good to be with you today. We have a very special program for you. Very interesting guests coming up, and a very inspirational story as well. And I want to bring on our first guest, good friend of mine. He's a broadcaster. He's also a writer, and he does a lot of great work with helping people in need. And in this case, it's a child who he's been kind of working with to get the word out on his story. And great to bring back a good friend of mine, Michael Manning, today. And Michael, good to be with you. How have you been?
Well, good to be with you, Doug. It's actually 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in Phoenix, Arizona. So while it's freezing cold throughout the rest of the country and the Midwest, particularly where I'm from, it's about 60 degrees here, and one of maybe 3 days during the entire year that it's overcast. So, but otherwise, very, very excited to be here today to talk about one of my favorite people, Trevor Tredaway.
Yeah, we're going to talk about his story. I think a lot of people around the country that may be listening to us, whether they're listening live or on our podcast or various sites on YouTube, have probably seen him on some public service announcements with Robin Williams, right?
Well, that's right, and that's something that I think Melinda could really address and give you a good background on as Trevor's mother, and that's why I'm so delighted that she's agreed to be with us here today, and I think she could give us a good background on where Trevor has been, where he is today, and where is it that she would like to see him go in terms of his treatment and the progress that he's making, and what the goals are specifically for this year. I think this is a very, very big year for Trevor, and I'm very, very relentlessly positive about it. So, and I'm so grateful to you for giving us this opportunity, Doug.
Well, I wanted to have you on anyway, Mike, since we haven't done this in a while. You and I did some radio down here in Sarasota a few years ago, but when you sent me this email about it, I wanted to have you on to talk about it. Let's bring on Melinda Tredaway right now and have her tell the story. She joined us by telephone, and you're in Texas, right, Melinda? Good to have you join us today. First of all, how did you get you and Michael Manning kind of get together to work on this particular campaign to kind of get the word out? How did you two meet?
Well, we met back in 2008 when, after Trevor was diagnosed, he has a brain tumor. He had been on chemo for a while, and we found that it wasn't working, and so we went to Arizona for some alternative treatments in the summer of '08, and it's kind of weird. Some people that I know in Lubbock heard about us going to Arizona who know Michael, and they just kind of got us in touch with everybody. It was really strange how it all worked out. Very small world, after all.
And Michael, how did you kind of become part of this? I know in the past you've helped some other children that have gone through similar situations, kind of getting the word out, helping them to raise funds and to kind of bring their families together to maybe do some fun things as a family, right?
Well, I first became familiar with Trevor just before I relocated from Cincinnati. I lost my father and was at the time laid off from the ABC Radio News Network with a non-compete. So I wound up going back to Cincinnati. My parents' house was really in need of remediation, and that was a long project. And so while I was, after I had completed that project, it was time to leave the Cincinnati area. I was ready to move clear across the country to Arizona. And one evening, I was at the hotel, and my CPA of about 26 years, B.J. Chenault and his wife, Evelyn, they sent me an email that was very short and to the point. In fact, he and his wife wrote just 2 sentences to me. They said, "We are so concerned about this young boy. Would you please pray for him?" That was it. That was the extent of their message. And so following that, I went on Trevor's website briefly. It was a hectic time, and I was able to, glean certain facts about him. After I had arrived in December to Arizona, I was able to really focus and spend more time on understanding his background story and who he was, and that ultimately is how we came in touch with one another. It's a longer story involving. I always tell people, if you had a pin, a push pin that you put into the wall like you would a map, and some string yarn. All of this really began with Amy Aldrich and her husband Shannon, and they introduced me to two other wonderful friends, Jenna and Des Gillespie, and the Gillespies had their son here during the same summer that Trevor was here receiving alternative treatment, and we all just sort of got together and became great friends. So I have to credit Amy and Shannon and also BJ and Evelyn a great deal for making me aware. It was actually BJ and Evelyn's daughter, Nancy, who happened to know a friend who attended graduate school, I believe, with Melinda. And so that's how it really is a small world, and how we came together. As time went on, and as you start following this story, it just grabs your heart. I'm one of the few people who can say I've had the great privilege of actually meeting Trevor in person. And to this day, there's not a week that goes by where I don't have an average of 2 to 3 people who know me who will come into work, or they'll telephone me, or we're out having coffee, and they're always asking about Trevor. They want an update. They want to know how he's doing. And so I share constantly. And he's just an adorable little boy who's 6 years old that makes you care, and that's the bottom line. And so from the outside looking in, you can see what needs to be done, and your heart just goes out to this little boy. You want him to be well, and that's really how we got together. And he's got an amazing story to tell, and there's an amazing story that needs to be shared. There are a number of children on Caring Bridge who attract enormous numbers of hits, and Trevor has a modest number of hits. From what I've seen, as I've gone from site to site, and so I think his story really needs to get out there and be told. It's a wonderful story about a sweet little boy, and we're all just relentlessly positive, as I say, about getting his story out, making sure he gets well. So Melinda can speak more to that, to his background, and where he's been and where he is today, and where he's going.
Yeah, go ahead, Melinda. Tell. Obviously, it's a terrible thing to hear as a parent when you find your child has to go that type of diagnosis. First of all, what was the first time that you noticed something was wrong, where you had to bring him to the doctor for that problem?
He was 2 years old, and would come to me and say that his mouth was hurting, and this was back in October of '07, and it happened very infrequently. I didn't think anything of it. He would say his mouth hurt, and then just kind of stop what he was doing for 30 seconds, and then continue to play. And it started happening more frequently, and fast forward to December, I took him to his pediatrician, and they mentioned a seizure, and he had a couple of EEGs during that time, and they progressed to where he was having 6 or 7 per day. Now we're in January, and he has a 24-hour EEG where they actually are able to capture the seizure activity, and the neurologist decided to do an MRI just to make sure there was nothing structurally wrong with the brain. They thought he just had a seizure disorder that he would grow out of. And so they did the MRI, and then that's when they saw the tumor. So he was diagnosed January 4th of '08. And since then, he has had 2 brain surgeries. Right now, he's on his 4th different protocol of chemo. He's on 4 different types of chemo because he has a very stubborn tumor. It's considered a low-grade tumor, but it is aggressive in his body. And so at diagnosis, he already had some spots in his spine, and it has since kind of progressed to the other side of his brain as lesions. And he is being treated at St. Jude. He's been there since November of '08. We got him into St. Jude, and at that time they were able to take out 90% of the tumor that we had gone for almost a year thinking was inoperable. And his doctors there, with the resection of the tumor, were able to stop his seizures, and so he has been seizure-free for over 3 years. So his quality of life has definitely improved since then.
Oh, that's great. I know Michael and I were kind of talking earlier about the St. Jude's Hospital. You see the programs on TV about it. Of course, Danny Thomas started it, and Marlo Thomas continues with that. How is that experience? Obviously, it's you don't want to have your child to go through anything like that, but dealing with those people, I think they're probably one of the best, aren't they?
They are. I feel very fortunate that we are there. Because I did try one time in '08 to get him into the hospital, and I guess you have to qualify for a protocol, and he didn't qualify. They didn't have a protocol for him, and then I tried again 5 or 6 months later, and they were able to get him in. And yeah, we feel very fortunate that he's a patient there.
What is in between these treatments? You mentioned the surgeries and the chemo. Is he able to keep kind of an upbeat attitude? I guess for a 6-year-old, it's probably hard to understand what he's going through, right?
Yeah, you would know, if you met him, you would never know that there's anything wrong with him. He's in school. He is a normal, rambunctious, ornery 6-year-old. He even with the chemo and all the treatments he's had, he is perfectly normal. Besides the brain tumor, he's perfectly normal.
Right.
He and St. Jude did request him to be in a commercial with Robin Williams that did air during their Thanksgiving campaign, which that was a treat for everybody. He's just got a great personality. He's a great person, for sure.
What was that like at the taping of that PSA? Those two together. I mean, I guess your son is probably too young to know Robin Williams from television, right? But I guess they must have gotten along pretty well, didn't they?
We introduced him to some of his movies, and Trevor thought that he was hilarious. And we got to go to San Francisco for the filming, and when they met, it was like they had known each other forever. So it was a great experience. They just hit it off and laughed and joked with each other, and it was great.
Go ahead, Michael. You want to answer me?
About him to this day.
Michael, did you want to jump in there?
Well, you have to understand. I'm sitting here with a smile on my face because I'm on the outside looking in. A couple of things. First of all, this is an amazing couple because when they left here, and the last time, frankly, that I saw them and played with Trevor, it was August of 2008, I believe. And so for the next, I was very, very worried about them. First of all, getting home, it was a very long way to go. And also I can speak to this subject with a little bit of background of my own. I was 3 years older than Trevor, and was in intensive care not once but twice, 2 years back to back for 2 weeks. And I know Trevor has had a transfusion. I also have had a blood transfusion. So when I saw that posted, I immediately addressed that to Melinda so that she knew that here's somebody else who can understand. This is a very, very big deal. And you're a little boy, and you hear of a little boy diagnosed with an infiltrating astrocytoma. There's about 130 different brain tumors, as I understand it. I'm not Sanjay Gupta, but I do understand that process. And I didn't have cancer myself. I had other health issues at the time, which were have since resolved, thank God. But what's so terribly important is that people understand that when you're talking about an infiltrating astrocytoma, there's a tendency to relate it to an adult, and because this is something that many adults develop, but this is a little boy, 2.5 years old. I'd never heard of anything like this, and following up on that brief email years ago from my CPA, who also happens to be a pastor, by do. I don't think there's a parent who's listening to this broadcast who doesn't understand just how dreadful that is to hear, that there's nothing you can do. Well, you have to be relentless, and you have to go back and say, we're going to explore every single avenue. One of the things that I have always admired about Todd and Melinda is that they've remained tight, they've remained strong, and they've never, ever given up. You can't give up, you can't give in, you can't throw in the towel at any time for any moment. You have to continue to research the alternatives, and I think that strength that they have together is what led them to St. Jude.
Mm-hmm.
And when you meet this boy, he's so giggly and funny, and I've heard of just in numerous instances where Melinda's at the airport waiting for standby to get on a Southwest Airlines flight, and people do meet him. You can't help it. He's such a gregarious little boy. He's concerned about everybody. He wants to share with you and find out about you and let you know who he is. And he's someone that you meet and you never forget. He finds his way to your heart very, very quickly. And so you find yourself wondering about him, from time to time and throughout the week. And of course, as I said earlier, he's just a little boy that makes you care, makes you want to care. And I don't know how many people are following him at this point on his Caring Bridge site, but it's a very, very important tool for getting the words out about him. If Melinda and Todd have to sit down and write cards out to everybody who was concerned, they'd never get anything done around the house, much less, look after the children. So in that regard, Caring Bridge is so important for Melinda to take time out of everything that she's got going on to update all of us on, hey, this is what's going on, this is where we're at, this is what's coming up. And it's a great way for us to stay in tune. And one of the things that I would just encourage people to do is not be afraid to comment. So often we're worried about saying the right thing. There is no right and wrong in saying the right thing. Something as simple as just saying, I've read your post and I care, or I'm thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
People have no idea what power words mean to someone who is standing in these circumstances. So to anyone who's reticent about saying something, just speak from the heart. Be real. Be yourself. You don't have to have the magic words, because there are no magic words. It's all about relating. It's all about just sharing. I care. I see some wonderful people on there. The whole prayer team, individuals like myself, and they're on there. And I can say that a few of us that are on there are consistently on there. And I do read the other comments, and I draw inspiration from them, and I can only imagine what it means to Todd and Melinda. So with that, of course, we're all very interested in where Trevor is at this moment and what's coming up for him in the new year. Maybe Melinda can clue us in on that.
And right now, when we backtrack to August, he was taken off chemo, that the previous chemos he was on this summer for some side effects and the fact that he had his port in since he was 2 and he just outgrew it. So he was coming to the end of that protocol, so they took him off of that in June. And he had an MRI in August, and the tumor was already showing progression. And so in September, he had to have his port back in and went back on chemo. And so right now he is on a 48-week course. Each course is 6 weeks long, and so there's 8 courses to total 48 weeks. So almost a year, and it's 4 different chemos that he is on, and they do make him very sick. He has had to have 2 platelet transfusions and a blood transfusion, and we have to get his blood counts done on a weekly basis to make sure his platelets are okay. And so right now, he has another MRI at the end of February. As long as we can keep him stable, he will, with minimal side effects, he'll stay on this for another, 5 cycles. And the goal is as possible to give his brain a chance to finish developing as much as they can. Before his doctors ultimately think he'll have to have radiation, which for him would be harsh because it would be his entire brain and his spine.
Right.
So we want to delay that as long as possible for him.
Melinda, what the people listening to us today, what can they do to help at this time? What's the best thing? Obviously, the positive thoughts, that's good too. But do you want people to go to a certain website, or what can people do to help?
Yeah, he has a Caring Bridge website that I do. I have lapsed in the updates. I haven't done one in a while, but that I do updates on. He has a medical fund listed on there that people can send donations to if they want. And the website is on Caring Bridge, and then it's just his first and last name, which is Trevor Tredaway, and the last name is Tredaway. And that's how people can get to know him and us and follow his story.
Well, that's great. I mean, obviously, it's a difficult situation for anybody to go through this. I mean, it's a family situation too. I mean, obviously, he's going through maybe the more painful or discomforting part. But as a family, you're worrying, you're wondering what's going to happen. But keeping that positive attitude, I guess that is the key, isn't it?
It's very key. And he has a 4-year-old sister, and it's to think about that's pretty much all she's known is that Bubba has to go get treatment, is sick and has a brain tumor and stuff. I don't think he would be doing as good as he is if she wasn't around, because they definitely keep each other happy, and even in all of their bickering and arguing in their love-hate relationship, they love each other, and she definitely helps him, and he helps her.
Michael, any
it's a tough road.
You want to wrap up? Anything you want to say? Final words?
Well, just this is an incredible story, and it's fluid as it goes along. And one of the things I tell people to do is all you have to do is love. That's all you have to do. Go on his site, and what's beautiful about the site is that when you go on it, you can see his story, which Melinda gives a background. There's a journal that Melinda updates whenever she possibly can. There is a guest book where we can go on and share our thoughts with her and just say, again, I emphasize this, you don't have to have magic words, you just have to relate. It can be something as simple as I'm thinking about you. It gives feedback, and that's different than somebody coming by and stopping, and it's sort of like a neighbor coming by and not knocking on your door, but kind of staying by. Well, came by to see you. Well, I didn't know that. If you rang the doorbell, I would have known. It's the same concept here. The fact that he has so much determination, I think, is directly attributable to the fact that he has an incredible mother and father. He's got incredible grandparents. He's got an incredible sister, and that's his immediate support team. However, it's really helpful to know that there's a lot that many of us feel that, if you are able to donate, go onto the site, and there is a Trevor Tredaway fund with the Citizens Federal Credit Union there. And it's a post office box, and it's 51070 Midland, Texas, and zip is 79710. And no amount is too small. To those people who may be affected by the economy that we're in, which is not great right now, depending on what part of the country that you're in, there's something there. Everybody has a talent, and everybody has something in their heart that they can share. If enough of us pull together, you'd be amazed at what we can accomplish, And so the focus is, with the prayers. The focus is with the supportiveness. The focus is just being a friend and being yourself. And so I just invite everyone to go onto his site. There are photos. There are some tributes, and it's just a wonderful resource to find out about this little boy work together, I knew what was ahead. I mean, it was just, I just knew they would pair up very, very well together. So I hope this visit today was positive, and I am a broadcast journalist. I'm not currently on radio or television at the time, but my resource is a website that I have. It's my personal website, and so I use it. It's a form of communication. We have something today that we didn't have years ago called social media, and that allows me to post, just like you do, Doug, and on my website, share it on Facebook, and I go ahead and share it on Twitter. That's how our world has changed, but that's how we get the word out. And if I can be a catalyst and a conduit to getting the word out as Trevor progresses, and I fully believe that when you know that you are loved, and I wish every child could be as loved as Trevor is. As I say, he has such a wonderful family. We care so much about them, and they're personal friends of mine. I have met them. I have spent a little time with them. Hope to see them this year sometime. And, just go on his site and see. I think he'll be delighted. And it's amazing. It's like the sun coming out from behind the clouds. That's the kind of effect that he has. That happened today as I was driving back home from breakfast. I thought about, gee, this is what Trevor really does. He kind of brings the sun out from behind the clouds, and he makes people laugh as we're kind of smiling and laughing about right now. It's contagious, and once you focus on that, you pause and you think about it, and then you see, yes, this little boy really needs to be cancer free. So that with that in mind, I believe that's the focus. I won't speak for Melinda, but that's. I just want to underscore the importance of it, and that's what's on my heart, and that's what I have to share.
And we're going to obviously this conversation today with Melinda and Michael will be posted, and Mike, I'm sure you'll post it on your website, and it'll be up in a bunch of different places as well, so we'll get the word out that way. But Melinda, any final words? Appreciate you joining us today. I know it's a difficult thing to go through, but you seem like you're doing a great job keeping it positive. Any final words you want to say to us?
Thank you for the opportunity to share a story. I think awareness is key in helping these kids live a cancer-free life. So I thank you for having me on today.
And we wish Trevor great success. I think he's the type of personality. Seems like he has it in his heart somehow that he's going to beat this. So we will pray for you, and we wish you well. And we'll do an update down the road. Michael, appreciate you bringing it to our attention here, and we'll do another one down the road later this year. We'll do an update if we could.
Hey, that sounds great. Absolutely. And it's a new year. We just started. We're still in January, so there's a lot of opportunity ahead, and I think this little boy is going to seize it. I really do.
Michael Manning and Melinda Tredaway have been our guests today on the Doug Miles interview. Thanks you all for listening, and we'll see you again next time.